Okay, Dave, so I'm just trying to give you a general overview of everything I've done for the semester, so that you understand where I'm at, where I'm headed, and my timeline. I'm just gonna let you know my timeline first, in case you didn't watch the whole video for some reason. It's October, and it's 2 weeks to November. I'm hoping to start, well, I plan to start almost no matter what. The actual production of the script, November 1st. Honestly, it shouldn't take very long to do the animations as long as everything's prepped correctly, because the preparation's the most technical thing about this whole process, by a long shot. So I think it should only take me a couple days, week, maximum 2 weeks to get all the animation work done. Then it'll probably take me another week to get the audio work done. So we're looking into like the third week of November before all the audio work's done, and maybe a couple days past that to do some visual touch-up editing or something of some sort, maybe. So anyway, we're looking at probably 3 weeks into November before I have a completed draft of the animation, which I'm assuming will be around 20 minutes, give or take time. You know, could be less, could be more, probably not more. So then that only leaves, I think, 3 weeks approximately to finish the project. To get the presentation and everything else, and make adjustments and improvements and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you can see here I was able to improve the hair aesthetics quite a lot. The hair shader model is fairly realistic. The skin projection mapping is more realistic than last semester, that's for sure. And the eyes here aren't the most realistic, but I did make a more realistic version of the eyes here. So I have to update all the characters to have all these characteristics. Like this one's not as realistic as the other character, except for the eyes. So right now I'm working on transferring and rigging and getting all the morph targets, which is the facial shapes, onto all the characters, and there's a lot of them, working so that they have the high resolution look to them. So one issue that I had to figure out this semester was how to get the mustache and the eyebrows to deform with the character's facial movement within Unreal Engine, because I thought originally, oh, I could just parent them and they'll move with the face. But the problem is you parent it and it's parented to the skeleton, it's not parented to the mesh. So if the skeleton's not moving, which it's not within the face, then the mesh isn't going to move. So the eyebrows aren't going to move. So I had to figure out a way of getting the mesh eyebrows to move with the mesh of the face as it deforms. And I found a way, but it took quite a bit of time. The hair is a particle system, so basically in Blender, I made particle system, converted to curves, sent that into Unreal Engine, converted back to a particle system. In Blender, I had to figure out how to take the particle system for these three parts, and essentially I just decided to find a way to turn it back from a particle system to a curve to a mesh and change some parameters. And then in the rigging process of the mesh, which I'll make a more detailed tutorial of. I made one tutorial which I sent you a link of how I do the face. well, I haven't put it on YouTube yet, but I've made a new process that's quicker, faster, more efficient, and allows you to take the blend shape deformation on the face and have the same deformation on each of these parts, and then you parent it on Unreal Engine. So even though you're parenting to the skeleton still, it has its own animations, each of these parts, that have the same naming system as the body animation. So just an example real quick. If I have just the beard selected and I scroll through the different animations, it might be running slow because of the screen capture actually, and I have a lot of things open. Actually, it might crash. Okay, we'll move on from that because it's probably going to crash. Okay, so in Unreal Engine, I'll just give you a demo of the face in action. There probably will be a lag because I have a lot of things open that I want to show you. Okay, so I'm wearing glasses. So you see the beard and the eyelashes and stuff. It's moving the face, good. And the eyes, they're shifting around and everything. So this is streaming from my iPhone live. I bought a pair of lavalier mics that can work simultaneously for the project. Just because doing live with a bigger microphone, even though the quality is a little bit better, might be challenging. Okay, so another thing I wanted to show you, which I'm just going to X out of this, and let's see, Unreal Engine. Let's go ahead and hit play here. Okay, so characters talking, eyebrows are moving, but not the mesh eyebrows, or the or the particle eyebrows. I forget which version's in there, but that's because it didn't have the animation linked. And I kind of found that to be very bad, especially when the characters have facial hair, and 3 of the characters have facial hair. So essentially, you'd be talking and the lip facial hair wouldn't be moving, so it'd be covering the mouth, and it just wasn't good. So it didn't really meet my standards that I wanted for the production, so I just had to change things. Okay, another thing I was working on during the semester, well, I figured out, which I was having trouble with at first because it wasn't documented well, is I'm holding a vibe tracker here in the scene. And you can see I'm bouncing up in my hand and switching it from hand to hand. You see there's a slow gap. That's not that big of a deal. I can offset that. But the thing is, there was a huge gap way out here where the object was like way across the scene. And there's calibration issues that I had to figure out, which took some time. So that's why I haven't sent a tutorial or anything related to the object tracking. Another thing I wanted to show you was how the face and body work together. Also, another thing I might as well mention to you, I have 3 out of the 5 environment scenes. I have them ready to go for the most part. Basically, Unreal Engine Marketplace. I've been doing some exploring recently, and I've been finding that they have a lot of pre-made assets or scenes which I didn't know about before, to an extent. So I started collecting any freebies I could collect over the last months. And there's a few that I purchased, which, yeah, anyway, I guess I don't need to show you right now, but in the upcoming video update I'll show you. But one's an apartment, one's a playground, city, park, and one is, anyway, there's about like 3 or 4 environments which I've purchased either the assets to set up the scene to look like it, or, yeah, that kind of thing. So I'm not making things from scratch towards objects that go in the scene, because that would take way too much time for a project this size. So basically the scenery, it's kind of covered. The characters, everything's covered except the clothing is the only issue that I technically still have to solve, not want to. If I want to have real-time clothing in the scene, which here, basically I can specify which parts of the character's clothing can be affected by physics and which can't. But the problem is the way that Unreal Engine does with the clothing is it doesn't use the mesh's exact shape to decide, oh, the physics can affect this and can't affect that. They use, I could probably even show you. These bounding, I forget what they're called, but there's like boxes, and you can scale them and reshape them and size them, and then basically the clothing can't penetrate that, but it can penetrate the mesh if the mesh wasn't blocked by these things. They do this to not overlag Unreal Engine, because it's their game engine, it's supposed to be real time, and hopefully they'll improve this in the future. But, so basically, you know, I'm thinking just to have the edges of the clothing dynamic. But the problem with that is if I try to get, like, too much of stuff dynamic, there's penetration of the clothing, especially during the animation, where the mesh penetrates the clothing, which creates a bunch of holes, and it just doesn't look good. So I have to do some trial and error testing to solve what's going on there. And part of it might be just I need to scale up the clothing a tiny bit bigger. But most likely the issue, which I saw one video only on YouTube that suggested that I do something like this, which I have to do some testing, is you have your character mesh, but then you delete out or hide visibility on anything below the clothing. So that way, if like the clothing was to penetrate, you wouldn't actually see the mesh of the character because it's either hidden, like the texture's invisible somehow, which I haven't learned how to make something completely invisible, or just non-existent, just deleted. So I have to run some testing over the next 2 weeks with that. That's the main thing I have to do. And then also, I've been using Mixamo, which is Adobe's rigging service to get the skeletal mesh auto-rigged. A problem I've been seeing with that is when you rig the clothing with it, sometimes the hands, the finger joints, get all messed up out of place. And considering I'm getting the mocap gloves in November in the mail, I'm almost definitely going to be able to go back and incorporate the finger animation over the other animation. So I want the finger animation working correctly. So I looked into add-ons that could, handle the rigging process, and there's an add-on called AutoRig Pro for Blender, which will most likely work how I need it to work, because I'm not taking anything out of Blender to rig it. So the clothes will probably work. The only difference is the skeleton that it generates isn't as good as a skeleton that Mixamo generates for using the Rococo. I have to do some testing, essentially. I have to make clothing for the characters, I have to cut out the mesh or figure out how to hide it, and then I have to test this new rigging method, which will take some time to make sure that there's no issues. And then I have to finish rigging up the rest of the characters, which I've started prepping all the characters for getting the face rigged properly. The body's easy to rig, quick to rig with Mixamo, and Auto Rig Pro should be similar. So the only thing I wanted to show you was the animation of the body and the face at the same time. So this is the Rococo Studios. This is a recording that I've pre-done in Rococo, and I'm just making sure that the settings are streaming to Unreal. So that animation that I pre-recorded will stream. I don't have to do pre-recorded, I could do live, but putting the suit on and stuff, it's a process. So I'm going to save that time for something else. So let's go back into here. And, okay. So this character is following the animation. And let's pick a spot. And, oh yeah, the hair is dynamic. So you'll see a little bit of movement. I will have to play with the settings from scene to scene for each of the characters, because the hair can get crazy if the settings are off. So most likely I'm going to keep the settings on dynamic hair as kind of stiff, meaning not a lot of dynamicsness, so that there's little problem. And some of the extra characters, I might actually just give them mesh hair and not actual full-blown hair. So you can see, well, this character's walking around a lot in this recording, but generally you can see me talking, and yeah, maybe I'll play a different recording. Might be easier just to see what's going on. Even though I can record virtually the camera live for this project, so that I don't need to technically go back and record, like I could have me acting and use a Vive tracker to track the camera's location, and have someone else man the camera. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to afterwards go back and play the scene kind of like this, and I'm going to use a Vive tracker to record it as if it was live, meaning me kind of recording everything myself. Yeah, so this is kind of just where the project is at. The texture projection painting that I did, it's decent. There is some issues, but that can be fixed with fudging with lighting with Unreal Engine, or I could do touch-up or redo stuff. If there's any lagging, I'm still going to have to fix that. Anyway, that's it. Anyway, so yeah, that's basically my timeline. 2 weeks, then production, then 3 weeks related to production, then probably the end of each week I'll show you what's been going on, screen capture, the scene that I've worked on, everything. And I'll have your opinion, when I should show this to Sama and Josephine and stuff, and yeah.